podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
All righty, Dan, how's it going?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, good. Yeah, I was going to say I enjoyed yesterday's game. It was dull for quite a lot of it, but it was pretty good at 90 minutes plus 3 or something.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I sort of quite enjoyed it prior to then because it was the first time in a long time I thought that United looked like a team.
Yeah.
And a low bar, admittedly, one that could be limboed under by Robert Wadlow. There's one for your Guinness Book of Records 80s fans. But even though they lacked a little bit creativity, as Arsene Wenger might say, everyone seemed to know what they were meant to be doing, what everyone else was meant to be doing. And it was also extremely gratifying to see actual running taking place.
Yeah, a lot of it, actually. The intensity was pretty good yesterday, probably a lot closer to what Rangnick wants. And he actually created there are a lot of shots. Look at the stats, a lot of shots, a lot of low quality shots. And I guess that was the bit that was missing for all the possession. The ability to work around West Ham's pretty low block wasn't quite there. What do you make of the system? It felt like it was pretty much an Ollie system, except maybe Fred pushed a bit further forward. We've seen that in a few games in recent times, haven't we?
Yeah, it feels like this is the system now that he's going to use. It's worked well enough the last 3 games now. I don't know if you try it against a better team, but because I always thought that 4-2-3-1 was the only way you could do it with these players. But I guess if you've got Fred higher up, then you might win possession a bit higher up and you might keep the ball away from the defence a bit better.
Yeah.
And so, you get Bruno can run. So he doesn't just have to stand there waiting for the ball to come to him. And particularly the shift that Greenwood put in yesterday, even though he didn't play that well, was nice to see because he doesn't usually demean himself to things like hard work.
Defending, yeah.
Yeah, you're beginning to wonder is he going to be one of those guys who's just, when it comes to it, doesn't have, he's got enough to get to where he is, but he's not prepared to abuse himself to get to where he should be. So seeing that made you think, well, actually, this is the case. And it's always the way, isn't it, really, that, you read all those stories, the players aren't happy, and no, this one's pissed off and that one's unhappy, but you get a few results.
And it all changes around, yeah.
Changes very quickly.
I think the good thing about yesterday is it felt coordinated and a system they should all be pretty familiar with. Perhaps the only little tweaks were Fred's position and Bruno's position. Maybe it's a double 8. These are minor things around the edges, aren't they? And Ronaldo, at least I thought watching the previous week's games back, he'd got into Bruno's zone a lot. He wasn't really playing as a number 9.
He's playing much too deep.
Yeah. And because, look, he doesn't, as we know, he doesn't do any running. He doesn't press. He's still in the bottom 1% of any forward around the big 5 leagues in Europe. And if he's not going to do that, he just needs to get in the defender's zone and occupy them and be in the right position to score a goal.
It's possible that he'd been told to come deeper for the runners to go by him.
Yeah, if they're going to do that.
I agree with you. He should be within the width of the goal and trying to backing into the defenders, basically, so that he can come off them. One thing I wondered about him, are we meant to notice his just for menning or not?
Does that fit with the brand?
Is he trying to hide the onset of age and he's just dyed his hair? You could always see that tinge. I think Tellez might be at it as well. But
he's definitely got some grey streaks, Tellez has, yeah.
Are we meant to notice, or are we not meant to notice that is what Ronaldo's doing?
Mirror, mirror on the wall, with the 400 of them that he's got in his house.
Meanwhile, Maguire, with his little beard, he basically now looks like that lummox nerd at school who hits puberty first. And he's got, what? I can't get, has he gone to his girlfriend? What do you think? She's gone, oh, Harry, you're a real dreamboat now.
I think men with big heads shouldn't wear beards. It just makes their heads look like footballs. But in Harry's case, I guess that's his whole sort of persona, isn't it? Ronaldo, what a strange week he's had. I mean, he wasn't that good yesterday.
He was crap yesterday.
Yeah.
I would go as far as to say.
That's fair enough. When he's like that, he's probably a net negative for the team.
But there's a however coming, isn't there?
Well, I mean, however's he's got a few goals this season. But that's he has to contribute that. Otherwise, what is the point? I don't know where you stand on the whole drama after last. We didn't talk about it last week. The sort of strop he had against Villa.
I'm an adult. I could not give a fuck. I can't. I couldn't believe that there were people that did.
I know, I didn't give a fuck. The whole sitting on the step was funny, and it was a kind of minor challenge to Rangnick's authority, I suppose. And then he didn't celebrate the goal.
He handled it well.
So Rangnick did, yeah. He was very clear about it, and he actually called Ronaldo out for being too emotional, which I thought was interesting wording.
The demonstrative aspect of it, I couldn't give two shits about. Because it's football, it's all pantomime. He's him. It's all that stuff. Like, if I'm going to start caring about Ronaldo's behaviour, then that as fuck is not where I'm going to start.
Yeah, well,
we're going to start with far more controversial. Well, not even controversial necessarily, but we know where this is going. Yeah, like that's where I'm getting bothered. I don't care about that. The thing that you said about why don't you take off one of the younger players, the Rangnick didn't have to reveal, but did. Made me think, is he starting to undermine him on purpose here? I don't know.
Well, that felt like it. Rangnick's quite deliberate with his words. He's not that. Yeah. He's not that emotional.
Yeah, I agree.
And his language is pretty good. English language, that is. Better than my German. And so it does feel like that was deliberate, both to call him out. I think because it wasn't a great look for Rangnick. It's the kind of Ronaldo on the touchline with Michael Carrick, who's the manager here. Ronaldo sitting on the step, sulking. Like, who's really in control? And I think we know who won that one. Although Ronaldo's back in the team, and he will be next week, and he will be the week after that. So
I'd probably have taken him off when we were. I thought the Rangnick again did well with the substitutions because I was watching the game and actually said to the friend I was with, I hope when he gets to 80 minutes, he takes off one of the midfield players because there's a point where when you're chasing the game, where you still you want to keep the team structure, so you're more likely to do a like for like or change the formation. But we tend to go then Cavani for Fred or McTominay seemed like a sensible change.
Yeah.
Because at that point, West Ham probably going to want their point.
Yeah.
But also, a point and a loss, not that much difference. And United really, really needed to win that game, and West Ham didn't.
Yeah. I think that's right. I mean, look, I think there's Rangnick's been pretty safe with his substitutions in his time. What have we had now? 9 or 10 games? I lose count, but
they all sort of merge into one long yawn, don't they?
Yes, there is a Van Gaal-esque to the football at times, but I think he's been quite safe. Yesterday, he made changes at 60 minutes, and the first change at 60 minutes, which I think was probably about the earliest he's done it, and it was an impactful one. So, and Elanga didn't have a bad game. It wasn't as bright as perhaps.
But when you've got options, you're able to do that.
When you've got options,
take off good players. And Cavani is basically the perfect substitute.
Yeah.
Because he's a bit like Sheringham in that aspect, that he gives you a slightly different threat. He gives you an aerial threat. He can come deep and hold the ball up. He's not the greatest finisher, but you can trust him. You can trust him to make the right decisions. And And when I was talking before, when I said before about Ronaldo and however, he was again involved in the goal.
Yeah, he was. It was. I can't remember whose ball was it. Tellez's ball out. Ronaldo.
The defender the defender got in the way and ended up with Ronaldo, and then they picked the 3 right passes one after the other.
Yeah, and the 3 subs at that. Yeah, which all paid off for the coach in the final third. The 3 right passes didn't come together very often, did they?
Yeah, and that's the thing. It feels like it's a shame that the break's not coming now because they are building a bit of momentum, and you can see. They haven't quite got the connections on the pitch between the attackers that you'd like to see. But part of that is just they're not playing together very often. We know that Rashford and Shaw have it. Yeah. They're not both playing. Dalot is settling into the team and ultimately probably isn't good enough in the end. And
agreed.
But you can sort of see that Rangnick's team starting to form, and you saw the way Declan Rice played yesterday as well.
Yeah.
And think, well, what he said about how much he likes playing at Old Trafford, you sort of got the feeling he fancies it.
I know. There wasn't so much a come and get me plea, but a drop the knickers and come hither plea.
Yeah,
wasn't
it's definitely looking at us funny. It was funny actually, because watching the game, what we know United are really missing more than anything is the player Declan Rice or cheaper equivalent in that position. But in that game, it wasn't actually him that we were missing. It was something a bit more Pogba on a good day, really, like a bit more invention further forward. But if you had Declan Rice, then you'd be able to play another attacking midfield player.
You would, yeah. It's that thing about what do United need? Someone who controls or someone who destroys or someone who can do both. And like you drop Roy Keane into that midfield in a heartbeat and it'd be transformational, wouldn't it?
I mean, you drop Darren Fletcher even into that midfield, never mind Roy Keane. And the story that he also, that Rangnick wants Haidara, which is because I also think that'd be quite interesting because then if you had Haidara Rice, if he wants another thing is going to happen, I'm saying it seems like the players that United would quite like to buy would be Haidara Rice. And then at that point, you're sort of starting to think that you're probably changing the way you play a little bit. Then you're becoming more of a Liverpool-style team, which would, sort of the knock-on effect of that would be you'd need fullbacks.
Yeah.
Because your midfield's got basically only Bruno and he's going to create.
It all gets into the realm of fantasy at that point, doesn't it? Because United don't do that many deals. I don't know. Maybe Richard Arnold is some kind of genius we haven't noticed before, but I suspect that's not the case.
Well, it looks like they will be able to buy someone. But only if they get enough this window, if they get people out the door.
Yeah.
That's what I would imagine would be the case. If they get rid of Lingard and Martial, then I think and also because results have turned up a little bit now, that their top four is actually there to be had. If United go and sign a midfield player, that should be that you would expect them to get top four. And the speculation versus the accumulation actually makes some level of sense if you're someone that's your measure of whether you should buy a footballer or not.
My cynicism level is always high, as noted regularly. Much as what I'd think about how the Glazers own this club wouldn't point to some kind of proactive use of funds this winter, but they did it with Bruno 2 years ago. So maybe that makes a difference.
I agree with you. And the only reason I mentioned it is because the top four is now, it's a competition and one that we're close to. It's not, if we were clear in fourth place, we had a 10-point cushion in fourth place, but not going to win the league. There's not a chance they're giving the manager 30 million quid to try him in the Champions League. That's never going to happen. But when you factor the money that you'd have to spend versus what you could miss out on by not being in the Champions League, plus might get you through another round of the Champions League, which is also quite a lot more money, it starts to make some level of financial sense. And the reason I raised Haidara is because there was just a well-sourced report in the German press saying that Rangnick is desperate to buy him. And we already know that United are desperate to buy Rice. Not that desperate, but I said they bought him last summer.
For sure, yeah. The history of the Glazers also says the summer they miss out on the Champions League, which is 1 in 2, is the summer they spend money in order to get back into it, because the penalties for being out of it 2 years in a row are such and so big that they might not be able to take their dividend. Although they've always managed to find a way of doing that. Coming back to the game, there were a lot of positives out of yesterday. It looked coherent. The substitutes made an impact. Rangnick used his substitutes. There's a greater energy level. I noticed with Spurs and Conte, Spurs went from the lowest running team in the Premier League, like fewest number of kilometres covered, to the highest in a month.
Yeah.
Impact, can't you?
And I guess that's because... But Conte, Conte, first of all, has a reputation that the players, when he comes, the players, obviously, like Nuno was absolutely ludicrous appointment. It was obvious at the time. And I mean, the players knew that he was about 600th choice. So they didn't run for him. Whereas Conte comes as someone who's one of the best around. So the players will presumably have been excited for him to come. And on top of that, you've got the fact that he's quite an intimidating individual. So if you're not going to run, number one, you won't play. And he has the political capital to start to leave out whoever he wants, because ultimately his stock is higher than that of almost every player at Tottenham and higher than that of the club. So they're never going to back a player over Conte at this point. Whereas United's a little bit different because they're signing Rangnick, who's not a particularly intimidating individual, doesn't appear, although he does seem to shout a lot, apparently. And he's not a particularly intimidating individual, and he doesn't have the CV that Conte has either. So the players actually, he's sort of got to win them over, and he's got to persuade them to do as he says. And you kind of think, like, listen, dickheads, you play for Manchester United, like, do it. But people are people, and no one likes taking orders off anyone, and no one likes taking orders off any boss who they don't respect. And it doesn't matter whether you're a footballer or whatever you do, that will be the case. And when someone new comes in to tell you what to do, not lots of people are not going to immediately be right, well, let me obey. And that's not particularly a bad thing. If I took football and Manchester United out of it, I would be back in the workers every time. Like the boss has to prove himself. And even then, you can understand why people try and do as little as possible or want to be convinced this person knows what they're talking about.
Yeah, I take all this with a grain of salt, but there were a rash of stuff coming out from a whole range of different outlets about Rangnick's coaching and the people he's brought in alongside him, not particularly high reputations, his team, lower reputations than his. And with wins, that will die down, won't it? And everyone's going to be much happier and believe in this manager and more likely to do what he wants them to do. That he's been flexible enough. He's not been so dogmatic with the system he came in and said, this is my system. And he's ditched it pretty quickly. I think that at least leads to some level of I'm going to listen or understand what my players are about. And that's good.
Yeah, agreed. I was surprised that because that 4-2-2-2 clearly marginalised Bruno. And you can't afford to do that. But then I was concerned when basically he dropped Bruno at the earliest available opportunity when he missed, was it the Burnley game?
Yeah.
And they beat the bottom club. And then he decides that this 4-2-2-2 is actually good enough and he doesn't need to pick Bruno in the next game when he's back from suspension. And that to me was concerning. Just thought it was so stupid. But he's not done it again. And it's very obvious now that Bruno is going to be the centrepiece of the team.
It doesn't matter what the perceived drop-off is in Bruno's performances. Every single attacking metric goes through Bruno. It's obvious both with your eyes. It has to go through Bruno for United to function. And with the data, nothing happens if he's not playing. Nothing.
Even yesterday, he didn't play well yesterday, but it looked like if something was going to happen, it looked like it was going to be him that made it
the
happen.
radar was off, wasn't it? He was the passes were going astray. I mean, partly he was trying to hit these 50-yard passes because he was a little deeper, but at least something's been. It's not like Fred or McTominay. I was going to say not like Fred or McTominay would pick a pass, but Fred's picked a couple in recent games, hasn't he?
McTominay's long passing is actually not bad. Like his problem is the short game. It's getting the ball out and it's like taking up a position where he's not blocked by the cover shadow. And where picking clever, quick, sharp, like Roy Keane passes basically into midfield. But his long passing's actually not bad. And he's not bad around the box either. It's just that phase of the game when you're trying to move the ball from defence into midfield is where McTominay has a problem. And one of the reasons I guess I would persevere with him, aside from the fact that we know what his good qualities are, and he does have them, is that the thing that he doesn't do well is that, and it just never really seemed like it's something that...
The ability to get out of the passing lane or get into his passing lane, get out of the cover, has always been a problem. And to the point, it looks like he's trying to hide.
Like he's hiding. Yeah, it's a strange one because he's literally like... He's one of the few players with reliable arsehole in that team. He's the only one who turned up in Gdansk. Without him in Gdansk, they would have lost in 90 minutes, I think. And he's someone that in a big game, ideally, you'd like a better player than him. Like him and Fred, you can argue about him and Fred and what they do. Are they good? Are they crap? Which one's better? You want a better player. You want better players than both of them, ultimately. They're both good to have around, but I don't think either really is good enough for where United want to get to. But I feel like with Fred, the main problem is the carelessness of the passing. And that sort of feels like it should be resolvable, but at the same time, it just feels like you've probably always done that. Whereas McTominay, it's more like it's just understanding the game. It's not exactly a technical skill. It's just look where you are.
Yep.
I feel like he should be able to get by that he should be able to get by himself. Shouldn't really do it in the first place. But I have some hope that he'll get better at that. But my main hope is that they sign at least one midfield player and maybe Hannibal will be good enough to be the other one.
Yeah, so other performances yesterday I thought were interesting. I mean, Harry Maguire did okay on his return. No horrendous fuck-ups, which is, normally what you're looking for Harry Maguire.
You sound like Annette Bening in American Beauty. He didn't screw up once. when in the concert. But I thought Maguire played quite
He
well.
got the ball into
yesterday.
midfield really well, I thought. It does help. It's one of the things he's actually pretty strong at, progressing the ball out of defence into midfield. And United played quite a few longer passes yesterday as well, which obviously Rangnick wants, wanted to get the ball forward pretty quickly.
Yeah, they've started kicking it out
Yeah.
again. I have a problem with that, particularly like they're not great at passing it out.
If we were able to tiki-taka it all the way up, the logic is that you're actually more likely to retain possession and create a chance that way. But United haven't been able to play that like that for years.
Yeah, it takes a high level to be able to do that. I think the other thing that we need to acknowledge is West Ham are good. And it's not enjoyable to say, but this is where United are at the moment, a bit better than West Ham. And partly that's because United aren't good, but also it's because West Ham are good. Like, they're a settled team. They know what they're doing. They've got big starkers who are able to get in the way and block up the pitch. They have a system that works. And they beat Liverpool. Yep. They're a good team.
A good team, and actually probably, apart from Moyes' piss being boiled at the end, I'm not sure, was it like the lack of added time?
He thought it was offside.
It was offside, yeah. I mean, I'm always happy to see Moyes' piss being boiled. Not as much as Thomas Frank's was the week before, which was also funny.
Oh my gosh. It's so funny what makes me laugh about him is, like, a week ago, no dickhead knew who that dickhead was. And now every dickhead thinks that dickhead's a dickhead because he just behaved with such alarming ridiculousness.
He did it again this week, though. Did you see him?
And he got sent off.
So, Moyes being annoyed was always enjoyable. But he'd probably be disappointed with West Ham performance. There have been matches at Old Trafford in recent times where West Ham have won, where they played a lot better than that. And they didn't really get into the game as an attacking force at all.
I think that he might, I don't think he'll feel this. I think he'll feel that he was happy with the point and he very, very nearly got it. But I think I saw West Ham fans on Twitter complaining that he'd been too defensive and he hadn't gone for it. But I'm not sure, because if he had gone for it, I think United probably would have picked him off. United played well enough so that if West Ham would have left spaces, I think United probably would have picked him off and they would have lost.
It is a fair shout. Moyes' record against quote-unquote big six clubs is pretty horrendous, isn't it? So he continues.
I remember one of the many bitter laughs of that time Moyes was manager of United was when Everton come without him.
And win.
and win. Yeah. And there's that season where, like, all these clubs that haven't won at United basically in the entirety of the third year, like Southampton and Newcastle, start getting results at Old Trafford.
It's sad times. It was. Sadly, it's continued over the last 6 or 7 years. Each week there's a new club that manages to break some 40-year-old records. Wolves, wasn't it, the last time out? Anyway, West Ham just didn't offer much. And that was the other positive, I guess, from United's performance. There weren't too many panics at the back, which seemed to be a regular thing, don't they? But obviously, Rafael Varane being fit and back adds some sort of level of quality and calmness
and handsomeness.
Yeah, he's a good-looking fella.
It's important. Like, all through the time that I've been supporting United, there have been some extremely handsome players, and now we've got Cavani and Varane, and it feels like it's getting back to where it needs to be.
He's got lovely hair, Cavani. Lovely hair. You might want to stroke it,
and just a lovely, like, craggy face that enjoys doing wholesome activities such as rambling. And perhaps he also enjoys jigsaw puzzles. I'm not sure, but yeah, like Varane, like, United is supposed to have cool players, and Varane is one of them, and he's getting better. He's much better now than he was in that first game back.
Yes.
And if him staying fit will be extremely significant. And because you'll see that the other players will play better because they're playing with a better player and someone who knows what to do. But also, just as they settle down and play games together with each other, that's gonna make a big difference, because if you're constantly changing the team, and particularly the defence, you won't see very much in the way of cohesion, and you will panic much more often.
It's been a completely new back four, basically, hasn't it? And now I assume with Maguire back in the side, Lindelof missed yesterday. His house was burgled and sounded pretty traumatic. I assume Maguire's back with Varane now. Shaw's another couple of weeks away from fitness, and Wan-Bissaka's on the bench permanently, which is probably the best place for him.
He's someone who I felt like I sort of like to see how he did with a different coaching team, because I know that the inability to control and kick the ball is problematic. but felt like he was making improvements in that aspect, and then he just went backwards this season. But ultimately, if United are trying to be a Rangnick style team, which they are because he's staying on, whether he appoints himself or whether he doesn't, he's going to appoint someone like him, and it's going to need someone who isn't Wan-Bissaka basically to play right back.
For sure.
So,
yeah. I guess the logic 2.5 years ago now was that they could turn what was a former winger, a fullback who was competent in all parts of the pitch. And it's just not really ever happened.
It's incredible he got to youth team level as a winger.
Yeah. And it all shows in the data as well. He drives forward a lot. He gets into the positions, which is like it's a big red herring, really, because he gets the ball a lot and does absolutely nothing with it. So.
He's got better. He got better as a ball carrier. Which is a useful quality, but not if you just hoof it back to the other team. So
Stello, I don't suppose, is the answer long term. He at least, again, the metrics show that he's more effective in the final third. He gets the ball to his fellow teammates more often, which is a useful quality.
He's a good squad. He's probably an acceptable squad.
And I don't know whether that's what he wants. He'd probably be happy picking up a check. He's out of contract in 18 months' time, so that will factor into the thinking, I imagine. And like where United need to strengthen it elsewhere, midfield particularly probably means that they're not going to be spunking millions and millions on too many new fullbacks, especially if Shaw signs a new contract, which he might well do.
Yeah, I mean, it sort of depends really what the plan is for Hannibal, what the plan is for Laird, and who leaves. But if Pogba, they need a midfield player anyway. If Pogba goes, which presumably he does, then they sort of need two. Yeah. Then Lingard's going to go, Mata's going to go.
I mean, you're not going to get a lot of wages off the wage budget anyway this summer. It's just going to happen through some natural wastage and presumably a couple of sales, and that makes a big difference.
I mean, Henderson's another one. Like, there's a lot of, there's a lot of money there.
Yeah, there is. It's interesting. It's one of the hallmarks of the time that Ed Woodward was in charge, and he's in charge for another 7 days and counting, that United have been particularly poor at selling. Chelsea, just playing now as we speak, have made something like £400 million in player sales in the last 5 years.
They're basically running two businesses. They've got a football club and they've got a talent business.
Yes, talent hoarding, which may be disrupted by the proposals around just how many players you're allowed to have out on loan.
Yeah, but at the moment they've found that loophole in the system, a way that you can not self-sustain but do enough, whatever, so that you can spend the money because you're making so much other money.
Yes.
And it's not right, and I think that they do need to amend the rules to stop it from happening. But you can't argue they've done it well.
Yeah, no, they've done it very well, and obviously they have a head in Marina Granovskaya who really seems to know what she's doing.
And what they've now done is they've started actually producing high-level players for the first team.
Yeah, that's right. It was interesting coming back to Thomas Frank again. He made such a big,
I love Thomas Frank.
Such a big deal about the disparity in money. And obviously, I have major red tinted glasses, but I'm also pretty financially literate. And I was like, hang on a minute. I had a quick look at Brentford's financials. They spend 270% of their revenue on wages. If there's a club financially doping here, it's Brentford. And it's all based on the ability to sell well and buy sensibly. And as soon as that goes wrong, they're in real trouble. Basically, that model is one bad sale away.
Also, the guy's 48 years old and he's got curtains. Just take the L. I hope no one noticed. But no, just don't draw attention to himself. And all of a sudden, I'm sitting there Googling, how old is this bloke with those curtains? But I cannot get enough of watching that interview. And it felt like, I don't know, like I doubt the players care. But definitely to me as a supporter, that's what I want United to be doing. I want them to be making 48-year-old men with curtains, apoplectic with rage, and then embarrassing themselves on television. That's a large, significant chunk of what football's about to me, is exactly that. Someone like him making a show of himself. And then the fact that he then followed it up again is just like, oh my gosh, it's like he's competing with Thomas Partey for who can have the worst possible week.
It was entertaining. We want those characters, don't we? We want that passion. Talking about characters and passion, we talked about the goal a little bit, but I have to say I did enjoy the footage. I'm normally one to avoid United's social media accounts, but they stuck out the goal footage from multiple angles, and Edison celebrating it like he scored the goal was properly enjoyable. I thought he always goes on.
Oh, the whole thing was enjoyable. McTominay like trying to charge them and just completely missing, and sending himself careering over on the shoulders. Like whenever there's no footage of that ilk that doesn't add frisson to strides.
Oh, no, for sure. Actually, I don't know whether you caught the footage of Spurs winning at Leicester.
I did.
The sort of fan footage, which was, I mean, would have been great if you're a Spurs fan.
One of my friends was a Spurs fan in the home end, actually. And and there was the guy who, I don't know if you saw this one, there was the guy who was like mouthing off to the Spurs fans while the winner went in. There's just everything you want from a football match, just exactly that. And there was another video of the Leicester fans who were basically filming the end, bitching about it as the winning goal went in.
As the goals were going in. Yeah, good stuff if you're a Spurs fan. And good stuff for United. It's like, obviously, the fans go home elated. The team's going to be elated because what would have been a frustrating draw turned into a win with 5 seconds remaining. I think they kicked off and that was it.
It was almost more or less as late as it's possible to score. And Rashford has scored more last-minute winners than any other player in the Premier League.
In Premier League history, yeah. I know football did exist before 92, but it's an interesting stat.
I think that we see more last-minute winners than we ever did before as it happens. It doesn't mean that it will necessarily be the case that he has still scored more than anyone. But it does make a point about him that he's more, even though he's unreliable, he's much more reliable than most of the other players we've seen in the post-Fergie era. Like his big game performances in particular, goals in Derby, his goals against Liverpool, the winner against Anderlecht, the winner against Vigo in the first leg, man of the match in the cup final. And I think it's probably fair to say we hoped he'd be a little bit better now than what he is. But he is still good.
He's still good, and there's he's still 24, and there's time, not much time,
not loads of time.
And certainly the injuries over the last 2 years are concerning, and he was probably overplayed, right? And that would have contributed probably to the stress fracture. I'm not, I'm not medically trained, so I'm making that one up. And then the foot and shoulder injuries last season. It's like all of that can derail a career. We've seen plenty of players being derailed by that. McTominay flying into his teammates yesterday, he could have popped his shoulder out. If that was Brian Robson, both shoulders would have come out, as regularly did. So these things can ruin a career. And I hope for Marcus's sake, he's fit all the way through to the end of the season, because he's going to score goals for United if he is. He's got something extra. That pace is super, super useful in a Rangnick side where you want quick transitions.
And he's got to fight for his place now. If he doesn't put it in the way that Rangnick wants, he had lost his place. I think there's probably a good chance he starts the next game now instead of Elanga, because he's done enough to win his place back, probably. But if you don't play well, you won't play.
And that was the real usefulness of Elanga coming into the side, wasn't it? To say to a few of them, Jadon Sancho included, who didn't get a sniff yesterday. Not even sure he was on the bench, actually.
No, that was because he's still...
Oh, he's still a family member. Of course. Oh, that was the other part of the Thomas Frank interview.
All right, Thomas Frank over here.
I'm just channeling him at this point. Sorry to keep going back to this, but it was one of those interviews where he got absolutely everything wrong, didn't he? Spectacularly.
But it was just the absolute bitterness of it all, and just so many different aspects. If your team played better or could finish and have some composure in front of the goal, they would have won that game.
Yep.
And the goals that you say, you'd stop bitching about Sancho, who didn't play. The 3 goals were scored by players whose combined value is 0, and significantly less than that of Ivan Toney.
Who did, by the way, score a banger today. If he'd had his shooting boots on against United would have been in trouble in that first half. Anyway, anything else to say about this West Ham game? It leaves United in the top 4, just about, because Arsenal didn't win today. It depends what Spurs and Chelsea do, obviously, as we're speaking. But so it's good for the club. And I guess we want United to be going to play in the Champions League more often and miserably failing at the group stage. It's better than the Europa League.
100%. I can't be doing with another year of the Europa League. Just so unbearable.
Or worse, the conference.
You're right. And then I think from here, United should be able to take care of the top 4. But also, they need to start playing better, because they should beat Atletico. And once you get into the last day, you're not that far away, and there will be teams in the last 8 that you can beat.
Yeah.
I would back United's best level probably doesn't beat Bayern Munich's. in however well or badly Munich played. But their top level could be any of the teams that are left.
Sure. And also, not to bang on about finances, it makes a big difference to United's coefficient and pool money as well. I mean, a really big difference. It's tens of millions, basically, if United go further in the Champions League. And maybe the Glazers change the habit of a lifetime and spunk some of that money in the right way in the transfer market. So
the whole thing is it's just momentum. It makes the club seem attractive to the players that you want to sign, makes the players feel better about being there, feel more confident in themselves and happier with that they're going somewhere and they're not wasting their career. And there must be players. There'll be players in that dressing room like Pogba and De Gea.
Yep.
Will be thinking, I have basically wasted my best years doing bollocks. And it's not just United's fault. It's also their fault. But United are also partially responsible for that. Like the vision they sold Pogba was a lie.
Yeah.
And I'm not defending Pogba particularly by saying that, because I see lots of things that I don't like about Pogba.
Yep.
And he's got amazing talent and touch and imagination, but the lack of intensity is a problem.
Sure.
But if you put him in a team with players of similar ability, his intensity would raise, or they would be able to carry it in order to...
I imagine, and this is a kind of counterfactual, I can't prove or disprove, but I imagine if he'd chosen Madrid when he had the chance to, rather than coming back to United, that the last 6 years of his career would have looked very different.
He'd be happier. I've heard that. I'm sure of that.
And De Gea was, one broken fax machine email, Edward would up whatever happened on that evening when the papers went in 5 minutes late from being the same. He'd certainly won a lot more silverware.
And what you saw with De Gea was that he went stale. Yeah. He was the best player in a crap team that wasn't in danger of winning anything good. He was they weren't competing for anything good, and he wasn't even playing in the cup games, and his place wasn't under threat. Yeah. And so he went stale, started tossing them in, and as soon as the team got a bit better and he was going to lose his place to Henderson, hey presto, he's playing again, and he's still not perfect, obviously. Needs to come for his crosses. Needs to come for crosses.
It'll never change that.
Defense. Yep. And that's unlikely to ever change. Yep. But we're seeing much closer to his top level, such that we've without him this season.
It's a boring stat, but his expected goals versus actual goals against is really low. He's saved United something like 8 or 9 goals.
And having a goalkeeper, I think there's it might not be a coincidence that Maguire's best form for United came in front of Henderson.
Right. Yeah.
Because I think there's a strong chance that the back four prefer playing in front of Henderson in terms of the way that they're going to be organised, because they know that the keeper probably talks a lot more and they know that he's going to come, but he's not going to save the drop bollocks in the way that De Gea has. And one versus the other this season, I'm absolutely certain that we're better off with De Gea not dominating the 6-yard box than we are with Henderson doing a lot of shouting. He's basically Ramsdale, isn't he, Henderson? He's always talking, talks an astonishingly good game, but his keeping is not yet caught up. Not crap, and potential and ability to get better, but neither of those don't appear to have the athleticism that you need to be one of the best.
It's true. Anyway, I've run out of stuff to say about West Ham United and United this week. Any other thoughts? We haven't got a game next week because it's the winter break, and then it's the cup game after that.
Yeah, it's a shame to lose that momentum, as Shane Warne would say.
And I don't think they're going away to, a few of the players are going away, but they're not going away as a squad. I think Arsenal are off to Dubai or Abu Dhabi or something like that tonight.
Someone sent me a photo of Maguire and Dalot and Rashford, I think, going to Dubai because I think the point was to notice how crap their clothes were. They're just terrible wigs. Terrible rigs. Not terrible wigs. Maybe terrible wigs also. But yeah, I had assumed that this wouldn't be holiday time. This would be training time. But I guess maybe break means break. Maybe they're away for some time and doing work the rest of the time. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it was someone who's spent a lot of time travelling. I don't find that relaxing. Even sitting in first class on a plane, that whole process. It's a 5-hour flight to the Middle East overnight for 3 days, but maybe, if they love it, I guess.
Is that how long they've gone for?
I assume it's not all week, but maybe it is. I don't know. Is it that or Miami? And I guess there's restrictions on getting into the US. So, maybe they don't want to do that.
There's loads of interesting places you can go to get sun at this time of the year.
So there are, yeah. Not if you're a footballer. It's pretty much restricted. Miami, the Middle East, and Ayia Napa. That's it for the planet.
Is it hot Ayia Napa at this point?
No, I don't think
Yeah.
so. Not that I spend a lot of time in Ayia Napa, or in fact, any time in Ayia Napa. So I'm just assuming. Anyway, I guess that's it for this week. Fun chatting to you as always. Good result for United. Cup game up next, Middlesbrough. I haven't seen anything in Middlesbrough, really.
They've got better with the
So,
Wilder,
yeah.
I believe.
Yeah, so we'll see what the team they put out. I mean, it's hard to make any kind of predictions about that 2 weeks out.
Don't even know who's going to be there. I mean,
No.
You could easily see Martial beat and Lingard gone.
And it'd probably be good for all of them and the club if they did.
I agree with what Rangnick said at the beginning. If someone doesn't want to be there,
Better
fine.
they're out.
Fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, nothing personal particularly, depending on who it is. But yeah, Toro.
I mean, it was interesting that Tony Martial came on and played a big part in the goal, but got booed by an audible selection of the Old Trafford crowd yesterday.
I mean, because he's a massive frustration, Martial, because he's got a lot more talent than output.
Yep.
And so, I mean, obviously, it's also the fact, oh my gosh, what a goal.
Yeah, it's a beauty from Ziyech, just as we're talking.
Yeah. Wow, that was an absolutely ridiculous goal. And not bad for United either. I mean, I've sort of felt like Chelsea were catchable, but ultimately, it's fine to be further ahead of Spurs.
Alrighty, backers, we're going to chat about Premier League stuff. And Dan, how can we catch you on the socials?
At Daniel Harris.
At Daniel Harris. I'm at NQAT Pod when I can be bothered to tweet. And there is an Instagram. Not that you'll see much stuff on there. And a Facebook page that hasn't changed in about 10 years. Thanks, everyone, for listening. Backers, stay tuned. Everyone else, we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
In a bit.